Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. This week, I was lucky enough to chat with actor Josh Blacker. You've seen him on series such as Travelers and Arrow, but today we talk about his upcoming role as Witchfinder Warrior in the new Apple TV series See. We talk about what it's like to be on a huge, crazy fantasy production, all the action and secrecy that the project entails, and much more. It's a fun chat, and I hope you enjoy. Hey, Josh.
Les, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you so much for making time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Excited to talk about the show.
I realize that we're probably going to have to dance around some spoilers a bit, but I feel like the entire Apple TV, I don't know, whatever we want to call fall seasons now, just kind of came out of nowhere with these great projects with amazing budgets and real power behind them. For you as an actor, having worked on various projects, worked in film, worked on television, what was it like to feel the commitment behind the scenes of knowing that there's a real budget here, and that there's star power and Stephen Knight, and getting involved with this project?
It was, it's a dream come true, just knowing that the commitment is there by Apple on all levels, with respect to the budget for wardrobe and set decoration, and hiring the best talent available across the spectrum, from Francis Lawrence as the director, to Stephen as a writer, to our wardrobe designers, our costume designers, the set decorators. It makes your job so much easier to know that everything is being taken care of and you're given everything you need in order to make the show as great as it possibly can. So the only thing you have to do is show up and do the best you can with the character.
When it came to going in for the audition, I know often there can be some secrecy to these shows nowadays, with as much as press tries to pick these things apart.
Yeah.
As an actor, what was it like? What did you know going in, or what were you thinking? All right, this is the decision I'm going to make. These are the choices I'm going to make in the room.
Not a lot. The sides were similar to what happened, in the various scenes, but a lot of the information was removed. So you take what you can, and what I did was I looked at it from the perspective of how is this person going to get through the world, and how I took the blindness element of it and really tried to sort of imagine that part of it and as truthfully as possible tell that kind of experience. Other than knowing that it existed in a world of blindness, I knew that Jason was involved, and I knew that everybody else was involved. So I knew it was going to be an epic world-building show. So I tried to portray the character in a way that would fit into that kind of epic environment.
When you were, in high school and growing up and getting into acting, did you ever imagine taking that feeling of that joy of, I think I want to act, and then into this kind of professional process?
You always hope that that's going to happen, but you never know. A lot of actors just struggle to find work all the time. So I've been blessed to work with some amazing people on incredible projects. And every time I do, I'm extremely thankful, because I realize how lucky I am to be working not only on such a great project, but at all. There's so many great actors out there that don't get the opportunity. So when you do, you take it and you run with it, and you do the best work you possibly can.
And moving from South Africa to Canada when you were 16, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
I find it fascinating whenever folks have to be pulled up when we're kids, and it's not really our option. We just picked up and moved somewhere. But I find it especially fascinating when you're 16 or so and of that age where you very much recognize that I would like to have autonomy in where I live and things like that, but you don't quite yet. Can you talk a bit about what it was like for you to move countries and then also discover acting or get more into acting at the same time? Was there a correlation in kind of finding your identity and finding all of these identities?
Yeah, that's a really interesting and fascinating question, Les. And I think you're exactly right. I always acted. I always liked the idea of entertaining people and putting on a show. But when we moved to a whole new country, I became an outsider because you use different words, your accent sounds weird, and so it's harder to fit in. So what I did was for me it just amplified the natural sort of desire, I think, of most actors to watch people, and it turns you into a chameleon so that you could adapt to your various environments, and you start to read people really well so that you do try and blend in, and so that you don't get made fun of or bullied or what have you. So I think that's really how it amplified me and my work as an actor was by I watched people more intently, and I learned how to adapt to different scenarios, and you see how different people navigate their way through the world, and that can only help but inform your choices as an actor.
Are there things that you do in terms of trying to bond with castmates or establish a correct tone on set when you get a new project?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is to just let it happen organically. There's a tendency sometimes when you're only on set for 2 or 3 days, sometimes you book a guest star and you're only there for 4 or 5 days, you don't really have a chance to bond. But on an experience like this where I knew we were working for 8 months together, you just let it happen organically. And some people are, because their process is different, they may be 100% into their character for a particular scene, or they may like to goof around or whatever you may have. So it has to happen organically, and you tend to sort of then build those friendships more truly and authentically, I think. And that's definitely what happened on this show.
I had seen in an interview you had done, I think you'd listed Robertson Davies as a favorite author. Can you talk a bit about reading and what it does particularly for your creative process? I find it's something that I have to make time for as an adult in a way that I just kind of had time for when I was a kid, it seemed like. But it's important and it feels different when I read than when I enjoy television or music. Can you talk a bit about what you like about reading and what keeps you engaged with having like a favorite author?
Yeah, these are great questions. Thank you. It's I was a voracious reader when I was a kid, and like you sort of get away from it when when I worked as a lawyer, I had to read for a living, and that was exhausting and not very fun. So when I made a commitment to myself about 5 or 6 years ago to reignite my love for reading, and started a book club with my family, and that we had to read one book a month at least. And after that, it just took off, and I realized how much I missed it. And it really does help your work as an actor, because your imagination can fly free when you're reading a book. And most books, most authors are really good at describing the world that they live in. And I always have a tendency to visualize in my mind the world that's been created in a book, and what the characters look like, what the environment they look like is, how they're responding to each other. So when I get a script now, I do a very similar thing. The world I start to visualize it in my mind's eye as to how my character would fit into the scene. So it's really helped enhance my storytelling and my perception of how a world looks, and my character adapts to the world that he's placed in.
Do you feel like your time in law school affected your approach to language or your enjoyment of language?
No, I think what it did more was it affected my approach to, well, obviously, I shouldn't say that. It did in some way, in that you have to be very, very, very careful with the words you say as a lawyer, because one wrong word can cost you a case or mean something totally different for your client than you had intended it to. But I think more, it just gave me a real understanding of what we need to do for work, and how we have to. It's so hard for us to find what we love to do. And, I've had many jobs before being a lawyer, and that was sort of the last straw. It made me realize that life is way too short to do something that you don't love and that you don't give 100% to, that you're not committed to. And having found acting and being able to work as an actor now, doing what I love, was the biggest experience I think I gained from working as a lawyer. Well,
I think we're all looking forward to see it. Just the premise alone was like, oh yeah, no, that hits all my sci-fi buttons. I'm down for watching that. And then the cast, the pedigree behind the camera, it looks great. And I guess everybody will get, I think we're going to hold this interview actually, so everybody will get to go watch it once they can listen to this, but November 1st should be on everybody's Apple TV. Josh, thank you so much for taking time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think just to sort of conclude, I think you nailed it. It does hit all of the notes that I certainly would want to see in a show: the epic world building, the talent in front and behind the camera. And I can't wait for everybody to see what Apple and us have been able to do. And I really appreciate the time, Les. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm dying to know more about your character beyond Witchfinder Warrior, which honestly, if you've got to pick a vague name, that's pretty cool. So
well, yeah, I mean, I can share some information with you if you'd like.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's my character is the right hand guy to the main general. So Queen Kane oversees the queendom. The general is we are sent out to hunt down these kids, right? And so I'm the elite sort of warrior at his side to make sure that mission accomplished, so to speak, or
and
that we can accomplish our mission.
That's Christian Camargo's character, Tamakti Jun.
Camargo. That's exactly right. Yeah, who is an absolute pleasure to work with. He is just a phenomenal actor, and was a great scene partner and friend on set as well.
I'm going to argue for Tamakti and the Witchfinder being a perfectly good title for the show, but we can go with C for now and then just watch how it plays out.
Well, let's see how it plays out exactly.
Thank you so much for the interview. I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the time. Bye-bye.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.